Hi. So first of all, thanks a lot for deciding to listen to this talk. This talk is based on the paper titled Algebraic Branching Programs, Border Complexity, and Tangent Spaces. This is based on joint work with Markus Plazer, Christian Ekenmeyer, Meena Mahajan, and Nitin Saurabh. Special thanks to Christian, whose slide skeleton I used while preparing this talk. So let's get started. So let me introduce the object of computation and the model of computation. So the object of computation is the homogeneous multivariate polynomial, and the model of computation will be homogeneous algebraic branching programs, or ABPs. So how do these homogeneous ABPs compute? So we have a layered graph, and with a source and a sink, and so for every path from source to sink, this first computes the product of edge labels. Like here, for example, this for this red path, it computes the product of edge labels, uh, and then just sums the corresponding sums up. Yeah. So here we have three paths, and we have three product of edge labels, and we just sum the path, the results up to get the final polynomial being computed by this ABPs. Yeah. So there is another way of writing down the same computation, and that is via the iterated matrix product. Yeah, so for every layer, we have one matrix, and the entries of the matrix are nothing but the outgoing edge labels for each vertices in that layer. Yeah. So we just compute this iterated matrix product and just take the one entry to get the desired computation. Yeah. So this is nothing but a projection of the so-called iterated matrix multiplication, where every entry of every matrix is a fresh variable. Yeah, so this can be seen as a homogeneous linear projection. That is, we replace the variable by a homogeneous linear polynomial of the IMM. So this one entry seems a bit arbitrary to consider when we look at this computation from this perspective. It seems more natural to consider the trace, which is the sum of the diagonal entries, and it also has some additional symmetries. That is, for example, it is invariant under cyclic permutation of the layers. And moreover, this trace model is equivalent to the 1-1 model up to the polynomial blow-up. So yeah, if we define this trace of this matrix product to be the FIMM, then this FIMM actually then the projections of this FIMM corresponds to the so-called multi-source multi-sink ABPs, where instead of a single source and a single sink, we have multiple source and multiple sink. And while computing the polynomial, it sums over all paths from a source to its corresponding sink. Recall that we are taking the trace, so we are summing over only the diagonal entries. That's why we are restricting ourselves to path from a source to the corresponding sink only. Yeah, and we have we have the format of an ABP, which is a tuple where every WI corresponds to the number of vertices in a layer I. Yeah. And so complexity measure in this talk will be the width of an ABP, which is defined to be the maximum number of vertices in a particular layer for this algebraic branching program. Yeah. So this multi-source, multi-sink model can be converted to single source, single sink model with just a quadratic blow-up in width. This can be achieved by just taking multiple copies of this multi-source multi-sink and just finally making them a single source single sink model. Yeah. So, and what is width of a polynomial? So width of a polynomial is the smallest width required to compute a homogeneous polynomial f in this model. Yeah. So another measure which will be relevant for this talk is the so-called border complexity, which is considered in the context of geometric complexity theory, which was introduced by Mulmule and Sohoni. So we define the border width complexity of a polynomial W bar f, or the border width of f, to to be the smallest number n such that f is inside the boundary of the set of polynomials with width at most n. So this notion of boundary depends on the topology that we are considering. And if we consider the Euclidean topology, then this definition translates to that W bar f is the smallest number n such that there exists a parameterized family f epsilon with the width of f epsilon bounded by at most n such that this family approximates the given polynomial f arbitrarily closely. Yeah, in a sense that if we send epsilon to 0 and take the limit, then this f epsilon converges to f. Yeah. So for this ABP computation, this translates to the edge labels being more general than before. That is, instead of the coefficients coming from the underlying field, they can now be a rational function in epsilon, or more generally, they can be Laurent polynomials in epsilon. Yeah, so the computation is just as before. So this ABP computes the product of edge label, just sum them all up. So for instance, in this ABP, the final sum turns out to be 2x square y plus xy square plus some epsilon times some other polynomial. Yeah, so note that there were negative powers of epsilon to begin with on the edge labels, but when we sum everything up, then all those negative powers of epsilon gets cancelled, which allows us to take the limit as epsilon goes to 0, and the limit is 2x square y plus xy square. So we say that this ABP approximately computes 2x square y plus xy square. Yeah, and this is the parameterized family which converges to 2x square y plus xy square. Yeah. And if we take the definition, if we take our underlying topology to be the Zariski topology, then this definition translates to that W bar f is the smallest number n such that the set of polynomials that vanish on the coefficient vectors of all polynomials g with width bounded by n, they also vanish on the coefficient vector of f. Yeah, we will not go into the detail of this definition because for most of the cases of interest, the definition that arises while considering Euclidean topology coincides with the definition that arises while considering the Zariski topology. Yeah, so in this talk, most of the time we will be viewing the border width from the lens of Euclidean topology. And why is this algebraic branching programs and this computation and this width and the approximate and the border width relevant? It is relevant because of this famous permanent polynomial, which is nothing but the sum of m factorial monomials, where every monomial corresponds to a permutation on m symbols. So Valiant conjectured that if we consider the required width for the permanent polynomial, then this required width grows super polynomially as m grows. Yeah. So this is equivalent to saying that the two complexity class VBP and VNP, they are not the same. So this is very loosely speaking the algebraic analog of the P versus NP question. Yeah, and what are these complexity class VBP and VNP? So roughly speaking, VBP is the set of polynomials, which set of polynomial families, which are projections of FIMM on polynomially many variables. Similarly, VNP is defined to be the projections of permanent set of polynomials, which are projections of permanent on polynomially many variables. Yeah. And Mulmule and Sohoni conjectured that it's not just the required width of permanent that grows super polynomially fast, but even if we consider the border width of the permanent, the required border width of permanent, then that also grows super polynomially fast. So this will be equivalent to saying that the class VNP is not contained in the closure of VBP. So what is this VBP bar or the closure of VBP? So this is just a set of polynomials which are whose border width is polynomially bounded. Yeah, that is, the set of all polynomials, polynomial families, which are approximable by poly-sized AVPs. Yeah, and since it's clear that the border width is at most the width, so this Mulmule-Sohny conjecture implies the variance conjecture. Yeah, so this is a stronger conjecture, and the major open question in algebraic complexity theory is whether these two conjectures are equivalent. Yeah, in other words, whether the complexity class VBP and VBP bar, whether they are the same. So, so, so philosophically, this is equivalent to asking whether the variance conjecture is a question about algebraic geometry and orbit closures. So we take this question, we do not solve this, we make some partial progress in certain model, which makes some progress towards understanding this question. Yeah, so first of all, we show that the approximations in single source, single sinc ABPs do not help if we consider the commutative monotone model. That is, we show that the required width and the border width of a polynomial will be the same. So this complements result by Nissan in 91, where he showed the same for non-commutative algebraic branching program. Yeah, and we then show that as a contrast, that if we go to the multi-source multi-sync model, then the approximations indeed help. However, they help slightly in the non-commutative algebraic branching programs and the commutative monotone algebraic branching program. So in both the models, we give examples where the width and the required border width, they differ. However, they will always be polynomially related in these models. Yeah. So thus, the computational models are not closed, but the complexity class will be the closed. So the non-commutative VBP and the non-commutative VBP bar, they are the same. Similarly, monotone VBP and monotone VBP bar, they are the same. So note that the superscript R mean that that this results hold when we are considering the Euclidean topology. And when we consider the Zariski topology, then actually these classes are known to be different by standard results. So this gives computational models where approximations do help, but their power is limited. Yeah, so far this was only known in the setting of the matrix multiplication tensor in the bilinear setting. And so yeah, we think that studying such models is a first step towards understanding the bigger VBP versus VBP bar question. Yeah, so let's get started. So first, in the non-commutative ABP setting, so Nissan in 91 showed that for a non-commutative homogeneous polynomial f, the required width, the required ABP width at layer I in a non-commutative single source single sync ABP is given by the rank of a matrix Mi. Yeah, so and so Michael Forbes in 2016 remarked that as a consequence of Nissan's characterization of width based on the rank of matrix, we get that that for every format W, the set of polynomials that can be computed by the same format is actually a simultaneous vanishing set of polynomials. Yeah, and this is because the rank is given by the vanishing of determinants. So we get that they are given by the simultaneous vanishing set of polynomials. Yeah, and thus this set is closed. So the border width and the width will be the same. And in particular, the complexity class non-commutative VBP and non-commutative VBP bar, they are the same. Yeah. And he also mentioned that he believes that this result of Nissan will break down if we go from single source, single sync ABP to multi-source, multi-sync ABPs. Yeah, so in this work, we show that his insight was correct, and indeed the model, the multi-source, multi-sync model is not closed. Yeah. So let's see how do we show that. Yeah, so we do this by giving an explicit family where the width and the required width, they are different. So as an example, So our construction, as an example, we give the construction for D odd and the non-commutative case. The same kind of construction also goes through for the monotone commutative case and the commutative case. So let's look at the non-commutative case. The starting point of the construction is a complete format NNN ABP, yeah, where we label every vertices in the every layer by 1 to n, yeah? And the edge labels on a label on the edge E will depend solely on single variable xe, yeah. So where this xe is indexed by the start node, the end node, and the layer, yeah. So xe corresponds to xabi. And how do the labels exactly look like? So if this A and B, the start node and the end node, if they have the same parity, then we put the edge label epsilon times xe, yeah, on the edge E. And if they have different parity, then we put the edge label just xe, yeah. So for example, here in this graph, so since all these blue edges are the edges between A and B, where A and B have the same parity, so we put the edge label epsilon times xe, and all these red edges, they correspond to edges between nodes with different parities. Yeah, so we label it by just xe. Yeah, and then we let the ABP computation happen, and we divide the final output by 1 over epsilon. Yeah, and then we take the limit as epsilon goes to 0. So this is so whatever comes out is the family F naught, for which we claim that the width and the border width, they are different. So first of all, note that so when D is odd, and we are considering the paths from source to the corresponding sink, then every such path will have at least one blue edge by construction. Yeah, so which means that every path from source to sink will be a multiple of epsilon. So this dividing by epsilon makes sense, and the limit as epsilon goes to 0 will indeed exist. Yeah, and since we are dividing by a single epsilon, so and then we are sending epsilon to 0, then whatever survives after this will be the set of all paths which uses exactly one blue edges. Yeah, so the monomials that correspond to the path which uses exactly one blue edge. Yeah, so this is what this F naught looks like, and we show that for this the border width will be strictly less than the required width. So border width is clearly n, because simply by construction we have a construction which approximates this F naught by using epsilon. So yeah, we have to show that that the required width is greater than n. Yeah, so the proof idea is inspired by Landsberg and Hüttenheim-Leray. So the starting point is, yeah, so we have to show that the width, the required width is more than n, which means that a format n ABP cannot compute F naught. So which means that F naught is not a homogeneous linear projection of FIMM, which if you recall is the trace of this iterated matrix multiplication. Yeah. So since we are in the non-commutative setting and the variables do not overlap across the layers in F naught, it is sufficient to consider these linear projections to be layer-wise, in a sense that we can restrict ourselves to replacing the variables, to replacing the edge labels by linear combination of labels within the same layer. Yeah. So yeah, so thus we have to show that F naught is not in the orbit of FIMM under the action of this d tuples of n square by n square matrices. And how does this tuple act on FIMM? So it acts by the action of each matrices in this tuple on the corresponding layer. Yeah, so the matrix Mi acts on the layer Xi by just sending the edge label by the linear combination of the edge label. Yeah. And so this M has two parts. One is the invertible part, where every matrix in every matrix in the tuple is an invertible matrix, and then there is the singular part where at least one of the matrix will be singular. Yeah. So this orbit is nothing but the union of the two orbits where both the invertible part and non-invertible part acts on FIMM. Yeah. So we show independently in our work that F naught is not contained in either of the orbit. Yeah. So first we consider the singular part. So for this, we use the notion of conciseness, which is a property about the number of essential variables in a polynomial. So conciseness asks whether a polynomial depend on all the variables independent on the change of basis. Yeah. So in the commutative case, this is given by the rank of the partial derivatives. That is, if the rank of partial derivative is full, then we say that the polynomial is concise, otherwise not. So we just use the non-commutative version of the same matrix. Yeah. So we have for every layer I a matrix Qi, which consists of coefficients of F. And if all these matrices Qi are full rank, then we conclude that the number of essential variables is the same as the number of variables. That is, the given polynomial is concise. And since every tuple in S has at least one singular matrix, so this rank deficiency propagates to SFIMM, yeah, when it acts on a FIMM. So thus we show that if S is in S, then SFIMM is not concise. But it can be shown that F naught, on the other hand, is concise by some straightforward calculation, and thus this finishes the proof that F naught is not in the singular part of this orbit. Yeah. So remark is that that F naught is actually not concise if we consider the single source single sink setting, and this is how it should be, because our proof should break down somewhere for the single source single sink setting, because in the single source single sink setting, Nishan had already showed that the width and the border width, they are the same. Yeah, so this conciseness is where our proof breaks down for the single source single sink setting. Yeah, and how do we show the second part? That is, F naught is not in the invertible part either. So for that, we use the fact that F naught will be in the orbit of the invertible part of FIMM if and only if the two orbits G F naught and G FIMM, they are the same. And we show that they are not the same by showing that the dimensions of these two orbits are different. And for that, we use a fact from differential geometry, which says that the dimension of the orbit GFIMM is the same as the dimension of its tangent space TFIMM. Yeah, and the tangent space of G at polynomial F is the vector space which is given by the Lie algebra, the so-called Lie algebra action of the matrix space of d tuples of n square by n square matrices on F. Yeah. So we show that these two orbits are different by showing that these tangent space have different dimensions. Yeah. And for that, we first decompose this matrix space M in three parts appropriately, and then this decomposition imposes a decomposition on the tangent space for both polynomials F naught and FIMM. Yeah. So both the tangent space decomposes in three parts, and we compare all these three parts one by one, And we show that two of these parts are the same for both F naught and FIMM. However, in the third part, they are not isomorphic, and which allows us to separate the two orbit. Yeah, and how do we get a handle on this? We get a handle on this by showing a nice isomorphism between this orbit G naught FIMM and G naught F naught by discovering a nice isomorphism to the vector space of flows of the underlying ABPs. Yeah, and since it is well known that the dimension of the vector space of flows on a graph is given by the number of edges minus number of vertices plus 1. So this allows us to get a handle on the dimension of this orbit, yeah, of G naught FIMM. So this is given by number of edges minus number of vertices plus 1. So in the case of F naught, we get an additional constraint for the equation of flows, and this additional equations come from the fact. So if you recall, F naught had path from source to sink, which used exactly one parity preserving edge, or the blue edge, if you remember. Yeah, so this constraint actually translates to an equation for an additional equation for the flows. So this additional equations decreases the dimension, and hence we get that the dimension of G naught F naught is at most number of edges minus number of vertices. Yeah, so this allows us to separate these two orbits, GFIM and GF naught. Yeah, so this finishes the proof, and we get a point, a polynomial for which the width and the border width, they are different. So next we consider approximations in monotone commutative ABPs. In monotone ABPs, the constraint is that all edge labels should be non-negative for all sufficiently small positive epsilon. And in this setting, just like the Nissan's result, we show that if we are in the single source, single sink model, then the width and the border width, they are the same. In particular, the complexity classes monotone VBP and the border monotone VBP, they are the same. So to show this, the first thing to notice is that the ideas of Nissan do not work here. So what do we do? So we take as the starting point a monotone ABP that computes the polynomial approximately, in a sense that it computes F plus some garbage term. And yeah, so the proof proceeds in two stages. So in the first stage, what we do is we pull back the negative powers of epsilon present in the edge label to the source. Yeah, at the end of the stage one, what we have is some negative powers of epsilon to the minus t, let's say. And then what ABP computes is that epsilon to the t times f plus some other garbage terms, which will all be multiple of epsilon to the t plus 1. Yeah. So in the first step, we make this ABP free of negative powers of epsilon. Yeah. And in the second stage, what we do is we remove this excess power of epsilon one by one. And this is where we use monotonicity, because if we know that an ABP computes something which is a multiple of epsilon to the t, then every path should compute something which is a multiple of epsilon to the t, because there is no cancellation. Yeah. And thus we bring out the epsilon to the t outside as well, and this cancels with epsilon to the minus t. And what we have is an ABP which computes f plus some garbage term without using any negative powers of epsilon inside the ABP. So thus we set epsilon to 0, and we have an epsilon free ABP computing the polynomial f. Yeah, and this finishes the proof. And in this whole process, we change only the edge labels and we maintain the structure of ABP. So the size does not blow up, and we compute the polynomial as desired. Yeah, so this finishes the proof. So in summary, we consider algebraic branching programs both in the single source, single sink setting and the multi-source, multi-sink setting. In the single source, single sink setting, we extend Nissan's result from the non-commutative setting to the monotone commutative setting by showing that the width and the border width, they will always be the same. And in the multi-source, multi-sink setting, we show that in all the three models, non-commutative, monotone, and the commutative model, the model is not closed by exhibiting families for which the width and the border width, they are different. And the complexity classes, we show that monotone VBP and its closure, they are the same, just like Nissan's results in the non-commutative setting. And for the commutative setting, the comparison of the model remains open. Yeah, thanks a lot for your attention and have a good day.